Hello and welcome to your NEWSMAX Daily for Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. The 289th day of the year, the 42nd Tuesday, and on the calendar of made-up holidays, it's a pretty busy day. National Mushroom Day, National Chicken Cacciatore Day, a delicious and mostly healthy Italian dish. Sign me up for that. And more importantly, it's Global Hand Washing Day. If there is anything good to come from the pandemic, it's that most people still wash their hands a lot more often than they did before the pandemic, right? We are now exactly 3 weeks away from Election Day. And honestly, I cannot go fast enough for me. And it looks like all that joy and fun of the Harris-Walz campaign is gone.
Those explorers ushered in a wave of devastation for tribal nations, perpetrating violence, stealing land, and spreading disease.
And you know, the Indians weren't the nicest people in the world either, all right? She is glossing over a hell of a lot and seems to be in a rush to lose this election.
We must not shy away from this shameful past, and we must shed light on it and do everything we can to address the impact of the past on Native communities today.
Did she say shed light? Shed light, right? Shed light. No, they're trying to erase history, literally. You've seen it, I've seen it. Taking down Columbus statues all over the country? Are you crazy? Not only that, Teddy Roosevelt, George Washington, you name it. If it was white and a man and great, well, your time's up. Your time's up because Kamala wants a promotion.
NEWSMAX host Greg Kelly with the vice president's not-so-joyful Columbus Day message yesterday. Then at her event in Erie, Pennsylvania last night, she ran with yet another idea of the Trump campaign.
Please roll the clip.
Playing a video clip of Trump talking about the enemy.
He's talking about the enemy within Pennsylvania.
Turning those words against him just a few days after Trump played a clip of Harris at one of his events saying there wasn't anything she could think of that she would change. You know, that clip from The View that everyone is talking about now. The Harris campaign also put out a tweet of Donald Trump at his town hall in Philadelphia last night saying he looks lost and confused and they let the music play for so long, people were leaving, and I hope he's okay, referring to the president's mental health. It was trending big this morning and by now it may be deleted.
Hold it, please. A doctor, please. Doctor.
As usual, when it comes to Trump, they only show part of the clip. Turns out there were two medical emergencies in the audience. The music was playing and Trump stopped talking while they attended to the medical emergencies.
They're both okay.
That's wonderful.
Would anybody else like to faint?
So that's not necessarily a good look. And if you see anybody playing that today, it is completely out of context as usual. And you remember last week when President Obama hit the campaign trail to scold black men for not supporting Kamala Harris. Now the Harris campaign has released a new ad campaign aimed not only at black men, but at all men as Donald Trump continues to lead the male vote. Check this out.
Man enough to deadlift 500, then braid the out of my daughter's hair.
You think I'm afraid to rebuild a carburetor? I eat carburetors for breakfast.
I'll tell you another thing I sure as am not afraid of. Women. And I'm sick of so-called men domineering, belittling, and controlling women just so they can feel more powerful.
I love women.
I love women who support their families.
Women who decide not to have families.
Women who take charge.
And I'm man enough to help them win.
I mean, a lot to say here. We didn't even know this was parody. We had to confirm that it was a real ad. That first off, that guy doesn't know what a carburetor is, okay? That other dude does not deadlift 500 pounds. Trust me, I guarantee that. And, you know, like there was a bunch of other stuff in this ad that is crazy. And then this dude right here, who sits like that, man? You're in an ad about masculinity. I mean, maybe be masculine. Let's do an ad with the least masculine man and call it being a man. Who are you appealing to? I thought this ad was a joke. It turns out to be real. If you're having a problem with men, don't gaslight men. Look, beta men that ad would actually appeal to, they're already voting for Kamala Harris. Good riddance. Any man that was even remotely on the fence was just like, yeah, no, I don't want anything to do with this. But then they pull the Capital One lady, Jennifer Garner, to somehow like wink at me and to try to get me to vote for Kamala Harris.
I mean, I'm looking at these beautiful faces, these women, and at these strong men. God, is there anything sexier than a man who is like men for Kamala?
I mean, let me lay it out for you. I don't care what people who don't share my values think is sexy. I actually don't care if anybody thinks I'm sexy. You know why you're having a problem with men? Because this ticket is so unbelievably inauthentic about it. Look, you have a deeply unlikable woman at the top of the ticket. She's just not likable. And then you have a guy that dipped out of military service when his country called him to go to Iraq and who tries to play tough guy. Men don't like that either. They don't like either of those things. But you think that men aren't voting for your team because Kamala Harris is a woman? It's another example of how little you understand about this world, Democrats. Look, I have no problem voting for a woman, just not that woman. Because everything I look for in a candidate has everything to do with their policies. I happen to like Trump for exactly that. And I don't care about his mean tweets. I actually find them funny. I don't care much for actually also a lot of Republicans, too, male or female, because they didn't reflect my values either. I didn't like Hillary. Well, one, because she hated me and called me deplorable. Also, she wanted to take pretty much all of my rights. And also, can't forget this one. She left my friends to die in Benghazi. I also didn't like Obama for the same reasons. It literally has nothing to do with their gender, their race, creed, religion, whatever. But they insist it does. So Democrats go out and dig the hole even deeper this weekend. They put Tim Walz out there. This guy looked like a freshly creased LL Bean catalog. He spent the last 15 years of his career. Oh, look, I'm a hunter, guys. He looked like Elmer Fudd. And then we see him trying to load a shotgun. Looked like a monkey doing algebra. But it's not only the men that they're losing, it's the black vote that they thought was guaranteed because the Democrats just took that for granted. They're trying to pander for that, too. Announcing some new crazy plan that she didn't do in the last 4 years, but will somehow think she's going to get it through Congress in her first 4 year or next 4 years.
That's retired Navy SEAL Carl Higbie, host of Frontline, 5 o'clock Eastern on Newsmax. The next crazy plan that he's talking about, yesterday, the vice president said that she has a plan that includes forgivable loans for black entrepreneurs. What about white entrepreneurs? Investments in black male teachers, not black female teachers or white men or women or Asian or Latino or anyone else. And then wants to legalize recreational marijuana nationwide. This is Newsmax host Bob Brooks on American Agenda.
We want to bring in the National Review editor, Rich Lowry, into the conversation. Rich, good to see you here. We're learning that Kamala Harris's team is trying to figure out ways to distance herself after her disastrous interview on The View. She was asked, would you do anything different? Nothing that comes into mind in terms of I've been a part of the decisions that have had to impact Kamala Harris. Joe Biden clearly have done it together. Not much difference. In her own words, what do you think of their strategy now?
Well, it's getting awfully late to establish any separation from Joe Biden. I'm surprised she didn't seek some from the beginning. When she was asked in a 60 Minutes interview by Bill Whitaker, why didn't you guys toughen up at the border the first 3 years? She just could have said, well, I love Joe and I think he saved democracy, blah, blah, blah. But I do think he was too lax about this issue. She could do that on any number of things. There aren't Joe Biden loyalists out there. The Democratic Party isn't beholden to Joe Biden. She'll get all the latitude she needs. Instead, they decided to take this tack that she was part of every single important decision, and she wholly supports it, which is not a great place to be when the incumbent president you've been serving is at 40% approval.
It's interesting, Rob, because we were just talking about the plagiarism allegations against Kamala Harris, and then what Bob mentioned and what Rich said, there's not that much time left. Again, we've got 22 days till Election Day to sort of right these wrongs. We know that Kamala Harris is not doing as well as she was during sort of her Harris honeymoon when she first was announced as the nominee. Do you think there's any chance that this campaign can get back on track in time?
Katrina, remember, people have already started voting in many states, including those crucial swing states. So in some cases, it may be too little too late. But yeah, I think that there's not a whole lot of time for her to correct these mistakes she's made in the past. For her to do so now, I mean, she would have to find some high-profile stage. There's no debates left. She's already done her media frenzy over the last week. I don't think she gave many convincing answers to sway the American people one way or another, that she has a different plan and a different approach than Joe Biden. And let's face it, the American people have said over and over again by a margin of 2-1 that their personal finances are getting worse. If she's not going to change course, how are they going to have the optimism they need to pull the lever for her?
That's Daily Signal President Rob Bluey and National Review Editor Rich Lowry on American Agenda with Katrina Zish and Bob Brooks. Katrina mentioned the plagiarism thing, right? The vice president is now being accused of plagiarism in her book, Smart on Crime, which came out more than a decade ago. More from Greg Kelly.
Smart on crime, but she's not that smart. She's copied a bunch of stuff from from somebody else, from Wikipedia, from professors who knew more than she did. Christopher Rufo proved it. Let's go through the book. Look at this. Only about half of the students served by public schools in the nation's largest cities received diplomas. Word for word, she copied from NBC News. No attribution, no footnote. Next, please. This is a big paragraph. In Detroit's public schools, blah, 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 25%, 35%, all these. All right, let's see. Who did she copy that from? NBC News again. No attribution. Keep going. The whole book is like this. High Point had its first face-to-face meeting with drug dealers from the city's West End neighborhood on May 18, 2004. The drug market shut down immediately and permanently with a sustained 35% reduction in violent crime. Now, you got to change the words a little bit. Nope. She didn't. I mean, we've all been in school, right? We all kind of, every now and then in an emergency, but you got to change it a little bit. Let's see here. Same thing. These people at High Point, she ripped you guys off. John Jay College of Criminal Justice did some studies, and she copied them. Keep going. This is plagiarism. The Midtown Community Court was established as a collaboration between the New York State Unified Court System and the Center for Court Innovation. Again, word for word, copy and paste. That time from Wikipedia. Do we have more? We can go on like this. Yikes. I don't want to read the whole thing, but the courts work in partnership with local residents, blah, 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 blah. No, she didn't do the whole thing. She did the whole thing. Again, from Wikipedia, which I don't think you're allowed to do in academia. West Palm Beach, Florida. This residential neighborhood has all kinds of crime. All right, she's kind of getting a little bit more. I think we have one more. The community is full of deteriorated houses, businesses. This is bad stuff. If you get busted for something like this in college, they might just ask you to leave college. But she has a partner in crime in this. Joe Biden. Joe Biden, right? Hold that thought. Christopher Rufo, well done. Christopher Rufo discovered all this stuff. This guy's amazing. Kamala Harris plagiarized at least a dozen sections of her criminal justice book, Smart on Crime. According to a new investigation, the current vice president even lifted material from Wikipedia. We have the receipts. Yes, he does. Of course, the fake news is trying to downplay this. Oh, that's not plagiarism. It's just plagiarism. This is plagiarism. We know they think they can. No, she's busted, just like Joe Biden was. Joe Biden, partners in crime. You know, it's ancient history, I guess. Shouldn't be. Joe Biden shouldn't have been eligible to run for president in 2019, 2020. The way he conducted himself his entire life and got busted in 1987. Front page news in the New York Times. The guy was busted for plagiarism. I mean, are we the only ones who know this stuff?
Yeah, remember, Joe Biden ran for president all the way back in 1987 and eventually had to drop out of the race after the whole plagiarism scandal, which Greg went on to highlight in that segment.
So let's go through this. Joe declared in June of 1987. Then everybody found out that he couldn't stop lying and copying, and he was a great big phony, and he had to drop out of the race just 3 months later. Interesting. Kamala Harris gets into this race. Nobody votes for her, nothing, right? On July 22nd. It's about 3 months ago now. 3 months later, we're finding out about the plagiarism. And, you know, you could say, well, the book came out a long time ago. What else can you say? It's plagiarism, all right. And that book helped her. It helped her. It got her on the Today Show, right? She was able to laugh and giggle with Matt Lauer. And what was she doing right around that time? Getting ready to run for state attorney general against the man on the left. His name is Cooley, I think. We had him on the show. You know, she barely won that race by just a couple of, like a point and a half. So, I don't know. I don't like this. It should be a much bigger story. Stay tuned. It may become one. In the meantime, J.D. Vance, who will be, I believe, the next vice president, actually is a genuine author. He doesn't cheat when it comes to writing. He sat down and wrote Hillbilly Elegy, a genuine bestseller. Not like one of those books politicians write, and they make donors buy them or they give them. He's the real deal. And he was all over Kamala's plagiarism.
I saw today, actually, a story that Kamala Harris apparently copied some significant chunks of her book from Wikipedia. So if you want a president with their own ideas, vote for Donald Trump. If you want a president who copies her own ideas from Wikipedia, vote for Kamala Harris.
Sounds good, JD.
Greg Kelly reports weeknights at 9 o'clock Eastern on Newsmax. And let's wrap it up with Bill Clinton. And I mean wrap it like a present with a bow on top. Did you hear this?
You had a case in Georgia not very long ago, didn't you? They made an ad about a young woman who'd been killed by an immigrant. Yeah, well, if they'd all been properly vetted, that probably wouldn't have happened. But if they're all properly vetted and that doesn't happen.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Thank you, President Clinton. And of course, he is exactly right. If people were properly vetted, Laken Riley and many others would not have been murdered or raped or both. The Trump team wasting no time turning old Bill into a new ad. And I bet you he is getting hell from Hillary today. Donald Trump is speaking at an event in Atlanta today ahead of a rally tomorrow in Duluth, Georgia. Former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard and Team Trump have an event today in Carson City, Nevada. If you're in that area of the country, try and get into that event. Vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance will hold a rally in Williamsport, Pennsylvania tomorrow. And the Trump campaign has confirmed that Donald Trump will hold a rally at New York's Madison Square Garden on October 27th. You remember after the success of the Bronx rally, there was talk of a potential Madison Square Garden rally. That's going to happen on October 27th. It has been confirmed. And the current president, remember him? Joe Biden and the First Lady will both be at a campaign event in Philadelphia this evening. From Newsmax.com, Harvard Caps polling shows former President Trump leading Vice President Kamala Harris among those who have already voted in early voting in battleground states. Pollster Mark Penn said Trump's swing state strategy is paying off, noting Trump holds a 2-point lead overall in the battleground regions, 48 to 46% thus far with early voting. And a Rasmussen poll shows Trump up by 3 points in Pennsylvania. The MLB playoffs continue today with Cleveland in the Bronx facing the New York Yankees. Game 2 of the ALCS. The Mets and the Dodgers in the NLCS are not playing today. And the NHL's Tampa Bay Lightning play their home opener tonight against the Vancouver Canucks after it was canceled last week due to the hurricane, as much of the Tampa Bay area still deals with post-hurricane cleanup and emergencies. But believe me, there is almost nothing better for that city than a Bolts game. On Wall Street, stock markets opened flat today after the Dow Jones Industrial Average closed at another new record high yesterday, above 43,000. Many years ago, maybe like 25 years ago, little less perhaps, there was a very popular book, famous book called The Dow 25, as in 25,000. Now we're at 43,000. Goldman Sachs delivered better than expected earnings this morning as earnings season gets underway. A lot of the nation's top banks are going to be reporting throughout the week. Be sure to keep up with all of today's news on Newsmax at Newsmax.com, and be sure you're streaming on Newsmax Plus for the most complete lineup of all your favorite shows, hosts, and guests. Newsmaxplus.com. Shows like Greg Kelly Reports, Rob Schmidt Tonight, The Record with Greta Van Susteren, Carl Higbie on Frontline, Bianca De La Garza on Newsline, Ed Henry, Chris Salcedo, Wake Up America, and much more. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you as always for listening to the Newsmax Daily. Enjoy the rest of your day. Maybe eat some chicken cacciatore and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the NEWSMAX app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Hey, it's Jerry Callahan from The Callahan Show. You can listen to us every day. We react to the latest news, politics, sports, and all the madness in the world. I'll give you my opinion with a little edge, a little attitude. I'm an unapologetic right-winger, trapped behind enemy lines in deep blue Boston, so I'm used to taking on the mainstream media mob. You can hear us anywhere you get your podcast, or you can listen every day at newsmax.com/listen.
Information. Truth is freedom.